Welcome to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Or if this is your first time joining the show, 1,000 welcomes. I've got a big show planned today. I'm going to be talking about some of the lesser covered races and the results from the runoff, the GOP and Democrat runoffs around the state, including the Railroad Commissioner runoff on the GOP side. I also want to talk about an Austin city councilor who has been accused of being potentially drunk at Zoom meetings when she actually attends city council meetings, that is. I also want to talk about the county judge Democrat runoff in Harris County. There was a bit of an upset victory. And if you are interested in Dallas City Council news, if you're interested more in that type of content, this Wednesday, June 3rd, 9:30 a.m. on X, live, I will be joining Dallas and Fuego and Johnny Alamo from X. We are going to be providing live commentary during the Dallas City Council meeting. So be sure to check that out. We have done one episode, and it was a fun trial run. We're still figuring it out, but I think this is going to be even better on our second go-round. So very excited to be back. So we'll be talking all about Dallas issues if you're a Dallas listener. Before we dive in here, I'm going to go ahead and give the Real Texas Radio Podcast a plug. If you are enjoying the show, if you haven't already, please make sure to open up that big streaming app, whichever it is, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please click 5 stars, leave a comment if you have a moment. It makes a huge difference to an independent, totally free, ad-free podcast. And you can always follow the show on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, now, you're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin, just a fed-up taxpayer bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. All right, I think we're going to start out first. I want to talk about the Railroad Commissioner race, which has now been decided in terms of the Democrat and the Republican candidates. The election, of course, it's going to be in November later this year, but the GOP in the runoff last month, they selected Beau French as their candidate. And Beau French, he's very controversial. He's a bomb thrower on social media and in his comments when he makes appearances. And he was challenging the incumbent, Jim Wright, who had the endorsement of Greg Abbott and many others in the establishment. So this Beau French, he was running as the rebel outsider candidate. And his political elected experience is the Tarrant County GOP chair for a couple of years, which he had to resign last year in order to make a run for the Railroad Commissioner. So he beat the incumbent in the runoff by about 1.5 points, I believe. And now he's going up against this John Rosenthal, who is in the Texas legislature, Democrat. And I was just doing some research because a lot of people in Texas, outside of Texas, they don't really know what the Railroad Commission is. And once upon a time, it had something to do with railroads. It's been a long time since then. It doesn't really have anything to do with railroads. In fact, it's the oil and gas regulator for the state. And both candidates, they both claim that they have experience in the oil and gas industry. And Beau French, he claims he comes from an oil and gas family, that he was an oil trader, I think in the 90s, and that he's a businessman, entrepreneur, before he got into elected politics in Tarrant County. And he's originally from Midland, Texas. So if you've seen the show Landman, that's out in Midland. A lot of it is set there. And the challenger on the Democrat side, John Rosenthal, he is an engineer, and he's one of the few engineers in the Texas legislature. And his experience is 25 years as an engineer in the oil and gas industry. So I guess if you're just looking at their resume in terms of what these people have done outside of politics, you might think that John Rosenthal, being an engineer in the oil and gas industry, is the more qualified candidate. But he's a big wokester. And back during the beginning of the COVID hoax, farce, nonsense scam, or the beginning in 2020, he penned an op-ed for the Houston Chronicle claiming that the state was looking to reopen too quickly. He's very supportive of masks and all of the COVID hoax, farce, nonsense, scam, BS that associated with it. And of course, as an engineer, he tries to frame himself as this man of science. And we all know what kind of science COVID was about. It was about the political science, not really anything to do with actual, real, hard science. So it's really difficult for me to get behind a candidate who bought in so heavily to the COVID hoax, farce, nonsense scam. That's really my big issue. In fact, I think I even saw a photo of John Rosenthal circulating on X. And by the way, you can check me out on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin, the Real Texas Radio Podcast. But I saw a tweet of him, and I don't think it was AI. He was wearing a COVID mask, and the mask had a message on it. I stand with trans, or some trans lives matter, something ridiculous like that. So it's really difficult for me to consider voting for a candidate like that regardless of the race. Now, Beau French, I didn't vote for him in the runoff. I did not vote for him. I supported Jim Wright. Sorry if you think that I'm a big rhino and I failed the purity test and you have to turn the show off. This was a tough runoff. It was a tough primary. It looked to me that everybody was voting all over the place. It was very difficult, I think, to get information about candidates, and you had to really do deep research in order to see what was going on. And the Railroad Commission, it's not an office that's at the top of my radar. So anyway, Beau French, he's very controversial, as I mentioned at the top of the segment, because of the comments that he makes. Many of the comments that he makes are about social issues like Islam in the state of Texas. And by the way, Texas has about 300,000 Muslims, about 2% of the population. But it's been trending over the last year or so that Islam is taking over Texas. That's one of the narratives. So I'm not saying that. I'm just reporting what other people are saying. You may have seen in Frisco, well, that has to do with the Indians, many of whom are not Muslim, many of whom are Muslim as well. I don't know the religious breakdown of the Indian population in Texas. In any case, so Beau French, he says that he wants the Republican Party in Texas to be more Islamophobic, to embrace Islamophobia. And he also tweeted, I think it was earlier in 2026, that he wants 100 million people to be deported. 100 million people to be deported from the United States.
We're going to build a wall. It's going to be built.
So Beau French, he wants to deport 100 million people. That's what he says. He thinks there are 100 million illegal aliens, I guess, inside of the country. Now, how many illegal aliens has Trump deported just in the last year and a half? So I looked it up, and I'm seeing numbers all over the place. Anywhere from in the hundreds of thousands, like 500,000, all the way up to 3 million. I'm seeing numbers all over the place, including Trump claims, Homeland Security claims that something like 2 million, 2.2 million people self-deported, in addition to 900,000 deportations. Okay, but there's a wide range. So I don't know if anybody can say with certainty how many illegal aliens have been deported, right? Let's go ahead and take the 3 million figure. Let's just say 3 million were deported in the last year and a half. So even at that clip, which is very impressive if he can deport 3 million at a time, there's still going to be millions of illegal aliens remaining in the country, even if he's deporting 3 million a year, or inclusive of self-deportations. I don't know how many more self-deportations we're going to get. So anyway, what does any of this have to do with the Railroad Commission? What does deporting illegal aliens and Islam have to do with the Railroad Commissioner position in Texas? And I'm going to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I didn't vote for Beau French, because this is what he seems to be focusing a lot about. And you know what? There's another local show here in Dallas that I listen to that I enjoy, and I sometimes agree with the host, sometimes I don't, but the host, he usually can get some big guests, some big Texas guests, some local Dallas guests. And so I tune in fairly regularly, and I saw that the host was having Beau French on for a segment. And I was like, you know what, I'd like to hear this guy, because I haven't paid much attention to this Railroad Commissioner race. I'd already voted, the runoff was over. And Beau French wasn't on very long. I don't even think he was on for 10 minutes. It could have been less than that. Do you know what occurred during the discussion? They didn't talk at all about the Railroad Commission, about what the Railroad Commission does, why is it still called the Railroad Commission if it doesn't have anything to do with railroads. And candidates have run in the past on a platform of, I would like to change the name to make it more accurately reflect what it actually controls in the state in modern times. There was no discussion about the actual job of Railroad Commissioner or Beau French's qualifications in that job. Instead, the host only wanted to discuss illegal aliens and deportation and Islamophobia. And that's all they discussed. So, you know what? I'd like a little bit more than that. Am I going to vote for this John Rosenthal COVID hoax farce nonsense mask supporter Democrat? I don't know. I'm going to have to look really closely. I would love a debate. I would love to see these two debate. I'm sure we all want to see Talafrico and Paxton debate. Hopefully we'll get one. But I really want to see Beau French and John Rosenthal debate, hopefully more than once. But I think that would be really interesting. And I want them to be questioned on the actual role of the Railroad Commission and instead of the social issues. So after Beau French appeared on the show, there was a caller who he called into the show to comment. And, you know, I found myself agreeing with the caller, who I dare say is a Republican voter. I wasn't getting the vibe that he was a Democrat. I don't think a whole lot of Democrats listen to this show. But the caller, he just pointed out, again, how ridiculous it is to make a statement that you're going to deport 100 million people. This country has a population estimated at 330 million. You're going to deport 100 million. It's not possible. And the host said, oh, no, I think we need to make a go at it. Oh, well, just because maybe we don't get all 100 million, but we should still strive for that number. Not even challenging the fact that who thinks that there are 100 million illegal aliens in the United States? Even all of us who think that the official figure, the government, the federal government has told us, 11 to 12 million. I've been hearing that since I was 17 or 18 years old. They haven't really revised the figure, even after 4 years of Biden in the flood, the horrific first of its kind flood of illegal aliens running over the border. They still don't revise the figure. So I don't think anybody is believing the 11 or 12 million or even the 20 million, 25 million. I think a lot of people don't think it's that either. I think a lot of us think it's much higher than that, the number of illegal aliens in the country. But 100 million? So it's, I can appreciate hyperbole. I can appreciate somebody who speaks his mind. I send a lot of messages out into the world on X, and I make a mistake sometimes, and I'll fess up to my mistake. I'll own up to my mistake. But Beau French, I don't think he's backing down from this one. So just something to think about. You might want to educate yourself further on this railroad commissioner race. I certainly have a lot more education to do myself before the November election. All right, we're going to move on to another topic. I want to talk about some absentee politicians, some absentee city councilors in Austin and in Houston. Before I get into that, though, if you haven't already, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow the Real Texas Radio Podcast. If you're in one of those streaming apps, Spotify, Apple, and you can, please rate the show 5 stars. And if you have time, please even give me a quick comment so that way other listeners know what a great show the Real Texas Radio Podcast is for Texas news. All right. So in Austin, there's a city councilor, District 1. Her name is Natasha Harper Madison. And I've been seeing some chatter about her lately from some of the accounts on X who keep an eye on the Austin City Council and local politics. And somebody on X tweeted this out. Out of 32 council meetings last year and so far this year, so 2025 through 2026, Natasha Harper Madison has only attended 15 meetings, or 47% in person, by far exceeding any other member for in-person no-shows. She lives 5 minutes from City Hall. Her district rarely gets representation. Her salary, $131,000. $131,000. And normally, when she does show up, because a lot of times she just no-shows, and she's on Zoom.
You can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming.
Yeah, and a lot of times she has her camera turned off on Zoom, and there are no consequences, it seems, particularly from her voters, although she is term limited out. I'm sure she's really going to miss her $131,000 per year salary that she gets, and she doesn't even have to go to work. So I mentioned 2025 through 2026 that she's got an attendance problem. Well, I was doing some more digging. Her attendance problem has been an issue. She's got the worst attendance of any of the council. There are 9 or 10 of them plus the mayor, going back to 2023. And guess what? She took some time off, some of the time, not much of it, not for a whole 3 years, but she claims that she had a mental health problem.
I did my mental health leave in 2023. I was inpatient for anxiety and depression for 8 weeks.
I don't know what she was in for. I didn't even go digging that deeply. Now, apparently, or the reason she's been out is for a full knee replacement. I don't know how old this woman is. I dare say she could be in her 40s. She's not old. I know it's more common nowadays, and she's not obese either. I know it's more common for people to be having knees and hips replaced at a young age. I don't know why it is, other than obesity, but in any case, this was, I missed this. This was a couple of months ago. This was back in March. An account on X grabbed about a minute and a half from one of the council meetings in Austin. Natasha Harper Madison. She's also the only black representative on the council. And, you think she'd want to be showing up and making sure that her community is represented, but she's got to take care of number one, her mental health and her knee and whatever else she's doing. But I would be embarrassed if I had a job like that and I wasn't even bothering to show up in person. I live 5 minutes from the job. So I'm going to go ahead and play this cut. Natasha Harper Madison speculation abounds. I can't prove it, that she was pulling a Dade Phelan and was a little drunk from a little drunk at the Zoom meeting. Well, it wasn't a Zoom meeting. It was an in-person Austin City Council meeting she attended on Zoom.
I cut a few things, Mayor. I know it was still long.
And she's coming up here in just a moment.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Harper Madison.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to say so much less than I would have otherwise. She said it all.
Good.
So, all I was saying was, I don't sell it. I just give away lettuce in my front yard. There are people who walk past my house and say, do you know your garden? That's what I call it. Brings me joy. That lemonade stand. Let's talk about it. Michaela Omer. She's a literal millionaire little black girl who has my same birthday, by the way. Council members Velasquez and Fuentes. She's the 28th, just like us. Them having to walk through lemonade stand policy. All we were ultimately saying is, at some point, somebody somewhere said, this don't look pretty.
All right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. She's talking about lettuce in her front yard in a lemonade stand. She does, I have to admit it, she looks pretty out of it. And, you know, some of us have suspected Dallas City Council meetings when some of the members are at home, attending via Zoom. The meeting is running late after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, that perhaps a glass of wine or two has been imbibed during the course of the meeting with the camera off, the sound off, nobody looking. You know, we don't know. I won't name names. All right, before I get on down to Houston, I want to talk about the county commissioner race. But John Cornyn, the incumbent, he was just defeated. I'm sure he's real shook. I'm sure he got quite the shock of his life. Maybe in the last few days, maybe once Trump endorsed Paxton, he knew it was probably over. But I wonder if he really saw that things were going to end this way, him losing to Ken Paxton. So he must be pretty devastated. I mean, it's hard to feel bad for rich people, I have to say. But John Cornyn, he tweeted out a couple of curious messages. And I think he might need a wellness check. One of them, I won't read the whole thing. The first one, tweeted on the same day, an old but apt fable about the scorpion who wants to cross the river but can't swim, so asks a frog to carry it across. The frog hesitates, afraid that the scorpion might sting it. Okay, and I'll skip the middle part. It ends, I am sorry, but I couldn't help myself. It's my character. And he tagged Wikipedia. Then, here was another one. Now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Winston Churchill. I do love a Winston Churchill quote, but that's kind of depressing. He's tweeted out some other stuff about the Spurs and other national issues, Iran, but sorry, John, you know what, 75, whatever you are, 76, whatever you'll be when your term ends, it's not too bad to make it that long in your political career. I guess it sucks not to go out in your own terms, but it's politics. It's tough. That's how it goes. All right, I want to talk about, well, maybe two more quick subjects before we wrap up here, but Letitia Plummer in Harris County, which includes Houston, she just won the runoff in a bit of an upset, quite the upset actually, against Anise Parker, the white lesbian and former mayor of Houston. It was not a great cycle for Texas white lesbians. I'm thinking of Julie Johnson here, District 33, who lost her congressional seat, technically not her congressional seat, her closest, the closest seat in the reconstituted congressional seat, District 33. She's the fabulously wealthy white lesbian. And you know what? I noticed I actually got a mailer from her. I got many mailers from Julie Johnson. And she's typically wearing glasses. I think she ordinarily wears glasses. So she included the photo of her with glasses for most of the mailers, except for the last one, which I received after the election, in which she was not only not wearing eyeglasses, but she looked about 10 plus years younger than she actually is. I think I already threw the mailer out into the recycling or the bottom of the birdcage, metaphorically speaking, the bottom of the birdcage. But I thought that was interesting. I wonder why she waited for the, well, I don't know if the mailers went out later. I don't check the mailbox every day. Any case, so she lost, and Anise Parker lost. It was very close. It was like a 51.13% for Letitia Plummer, both Democrats, to Anise Parker, 55,213 votes. She got 48, just under 49% of the vote. And Lena Hidalgo, the mental patient, the two-term incumbent, she opted not to run again for a third term. I think she would have had a really difficult time just with all of her mental patient antics in the office. Just, she's a total whack job. She didn't like Anise Parker at all. She called her Kim Ogg 2.0. Kim Ogg, another white lesbian in Harris County. She was the district attorney for Harris County. She was ousted by, she was formerly backed by George Soros, but I think she started becoming, oddly enough, a little too Republican aligned with Ken Paxton. And then George Soros decided to fund her challenger, Sean Tare, who's now in the seat. So not a great cycle for white lesbians the last year or so in Texas. But I thought I saw something about Letitia Plummer's record, her attendance record, when she was on the Houston City Council, which she was until July of 2025, when she had to resign, or you automatically resign your position in Texas under the resign to run law if you seek another office. You can't keep a state office and pursue another office. You can't do that, which is probably a good thing. And guess where Letitia James, oh, I'm getting my Letitias mixed up. Letitia Plummer, she's a dentist, Dr. Letitia Plummer. She's from Boston, of all places. I think she's a Muslim, and she's considered the progressive. That's what it came down to. Anise Parker, her opponents were trying to paint her as not a real Democrat and not progressive enough. Imagine that, white lesbian not being progressive enough. I think Anise Parker is almost 70 years old. And this Letitia Plummer, she might be around 50 or in her 50s. Well, Houston does not make it easy to track attendance for its council members. So I was just doing a little bit of AI digging. I couldn't find, I know I saw a headline, somebody on X posted something questioning Letitia Plummer's attendance record while she was on that council. And according to what I could find, I didn't go, if I wanted to find her attendance record, I would have to open up all of the meeting minutes from all of the meetings she attended for the previous year plus. But I did see that in 2024, which would have been her last full year on the council, she missed at least 5 meetings. And it says in 2025 she missed 1 for personal business, some illness. She cited personal business May 29th, 2024, July 10th, 2024. Technically, that's spilling into the 4th of July week. The Dallas City Council, by contrast, doesn't meet in July. October 22nd and 23rd, illness. December 3rd and 4th, personal absence. December 10th and 11th. So she took off December, basically, because that brings you into Christmas, which I guess she doesn't celebrate, being a Muslim. So I don't know. I don't like to see that. I don't like to see attendance issues with public officials, especially when I think if it's really something urgent that precludes them from attending in person, where they could get on the Zoom at least to be there if they wanted to register a vote for their constituents. We'll see. Lena Hidalgo, who's leaving the office, her attendance record is abysmal. She was even thrown off of that HGAC, Houston Galveston Area Board, whatever commission, whatever it is, because she didn't go, but maybe once or twice they threw her off. I don't like attendance issues with public officials. And finally, I'll wrap it up. One Dallas race, Omar Narvaez. I did an episode about him, which you can check back in my catalog. He won. He handily won. I don't even think it was ever really in doubt that he was going to win based on name ID alone versus a totally unknown candidate. I doubt she had much money. She didn't send out many mailers. I didn't hear about her attending any events. Caitlin Logie. And she seemed nice enough. I think I mentioned to you that I did email her with some questions about her residency. And she did. She very quickly responded to me and provided me with a lot of information just about her background, and so I appreciated that. That was good. But Omar Narvaez, now he's going to be making, I think, $150,000 as Justice of the Peace, which, no, that doesn't mean that you're just officiating civil ceremonies. The Justice of the Peace, you're a judge, essentially, in small claims civil court. You handle a lot of eviction, tenant-landlord cases, credit card cases, other small matters. You preside over jury trials. You don't have to be a lawyer. And apparently in the rural counties, small population counties, it can be difficult to find qualified candidates, lawyers, or judges for that position. Despite the high pay, at least here in Dallas County, about $150,000. I know that's why Omar Narvaez wanted to get on. But here we have plenty of lawyers in Dallas, so that should not apply. You should have to have some legal education or some years in the field, I would think, practicing in some capacity before you can be a Justice of the Peace. So beware, landlords. You don't want to end up in Omar Narvaez's court. And, it just wasn't a well-covered race because there is a serious residency suspicion that he is not actually living. Forget about in Dallas. Forget about in the actual district, the JP district that's covered, which is outside of Dallas proper, but potentially, according to a lawsuit that he filed after the deadline expired last year in 2025, he listed Aubrey, Texas, and Denton County as his domicile. While he was still on the Dallas City Council, he claimed in a legal document under, I guess, the penalty of perjury, right? If you're lying in a document that you're filing with the state court. Well, he said that he lived in Aubrey, Texas as his residence, his domicile. And while he was on the Dallas City Council, allegedly representing District 6. So, and we've heard him complain about the salary, the $60,000 a year that he was earning, quote unquote, as a Dallas City Councilor. Well, now he's getting a big raise after a year, close to a year of unemployment. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, but I will let you know on Wednesday, I'm actually going to be appearing. We're going to be doing an X live commentary with Dallas and Fuego and Johnny Alamo. That's his X account, and Dallas and Fuego, of course. One of our favorite bleepsters here in Dallas. Does a lot of good critical work for social media for the public. And we did one episode. We did it a few weeks ago. It's just kind of a test run. We're still getting the hang of it. So we think that this second episode is going to be even better. So check that out. We're going to be commencing about 9:30 a.m. Central on Wednesday. You can find us on X. We're going to be providing running commentary for the Dallas City Council. We're going to try to make it fun for you. Infotainment. Let's call it that, infotainment. And it looks like on the agenda for the Dallas City Council is an update about FIFA, the World Cup, is starting in just about 2 weeks. I think June 14th might be the first game, so we expect to have visitors pouring into Dallas, even though we're seeing perhaps not as many as initially anticipated, but hopefully it'll be a good time. And we are also going to be getting a presentation on the Dallas City Hall repairs, Phase 2. I don't know who's going to be presenting. I don't think the presentation, the slides have yet been made public, but hopefully they will appear. They should appear before the meeting so I can get an advance look. So we'll be providing commentary on those and other items. So if you want to learn about the Dallas City Council shenanigans, fun facts, their voting record, you should tune in on X on Wednesday, which is June 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Central. All right, I'm Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Keep tuning in, keep listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.